Hello everyone! Apologies for the long wait, but I finally gotten down to creating the next video of love letters to Hydaelyn. In this episode, I'm taking you guys to Lower La-No-Shuh, and this 360-degree panorama shot from here does kinda cover the places I'm about to take you to. This map is filled with so much lore that I can't wait to delve into it. The lore will take us through how the land has changed from 1.0, the love story between Oschon and Llymlaen that never really came to fruition and now kinda reflects in the landscape, the historical shipwright company of Naldiq and Vymelli, and the connection of the current vessel they are building to 1.0. I also learned about the difference between a peninsula and a cape, and how blacksmiths were once a core part of the shipwrighting industry. So without further ado, let's dive right in. But before I start, there are some words I have for those who have the Endwalker expansion and finished Myths of the Realm Alliance raid. If you have not played Myths of the Realm and do not want to be spoiled, I'm giving a 2-second pause right here to skip to the next video section. Okay, for those of us who have played Myths of the Realm that uncovered the true origins of the 12, this video will cover the stories about Oschon and Llymlaen as they are linked in the landscape. Of course, we now know that much of the stories people told about the 12 and even enshrined in the encyclopedia were nothing like what their true origins were. However, how boring would the world be without stories? The human brain is made to create and enjoy stories, so I will tell them for all to enjoy. Whether it really happened or not, it may just very well be something only the 12 will know. And just like how the prayers to the 12 shape what they became, the truth may be closer to the answer of the classic question, does art imitate life or life imitates art? Visitors of Lower La-No-Shuh today would certainly notice the area named as the God's Grip. However, exactly which part of the terrain resembles a grip? Personally, for me, I tried to confuddle myself into seeing a shape of a single-handed grip and told myself that was it. Only one problem, it was God's grip and not God's grip, thereby suggesting that the hand of another god must be involved. The mystery, however, is all solved if, surprise, if we take a look at the 1.0 map. What the Calamity did to Lower La-No-Shuh was to bring on great waves, which I think would have minimally been a tsunami at least, but more like a mega tsunami, coming in right from the east, and this sunk almost the entire chunk of the eastern peninsula of God's Grip. But as a result, the western peninsula of God's Grip and Moraby Drydocks suffered some but less substantial damage. Before the Calamity, both the west and east peninsula, together in 1.0, extended down to form a hand-like grip shape. At the tip of these peninsulas, which by the way is called a cape, lay one lighthouse each, warning ships of the impending coastline. In line with the hand grip theme, the West Cape Lighthouse is named Oschon's torch, after the torch he would carry in his hands on his travels as the Wanderer. And the East Cape Lighthouse was named Llymlaen's ring, after the ever-shining ring she wears on her hand. Now, the position of the lighthouses and what happened after the Calamity couldn't be more reflective of the story between Oschon and Llymlaen. It is said that Llymlaen took water created by her grandmother's Nymeia's tears, and then she spawned forth two mystical serpents, Perkos and Thalios, to populate the world with the seas. Oschon, ruler of the mountain, spawned forth one day from the wall, and wherever he went, mountains rose from the land. The mountains gave rise to more winds wherever they were created, and the cold air could now descend onto the sea and back, allowing life to begin in the sky. Both Oschon and Llymlaen command the element of the wind, and these winds of change brought love into the heart of Llymlaen. And she longed to be with Oschon. However, Oschon's need to wander, since he is Oschon the Wanderer, prevented any sort of consummation of this relationship. Legends also tell of Llymlaen throwing a knife, or a fish really, when she caught Oschon peeping at her having a bath. This incident purportedly led Oschon to taking Menfina as his lover instead. I guess Menfina was okay with him wandering, although really nothing much or as interesting about this relationship seems to be documented, making the Oschon-Llymlaen story a much more interesting one. Fun fact, if you were to blow a kiss, dote, or hug Llymlaen during her fight, she would literally shoot the Navigator's dagger at you. And this may be taken as evidence for whichever part of the lore as you please. If we look at how the lighthouses of Oschon and Llymlaen are laid out today, they are close, but forever apart. The tsunami during the Calamity had sunk almost the whole eastern peninsula of God's Grip, but by the blessing of the 12, Llymlaen's ring was spared. Today, Llymlaen's ring isn't officially marked on the map like it was in 1.0, but it can still be easily seen lying outside the map boundary from various locations. And just like the ever-shining ring of Llymlaen, the lighthouse continues to shine at night. To the unknowing, it may just be a random lighthouse, part of the set dressing of the map perhaps. But to the knowing, it tells the tale of the land in 1.0, and a very human-like love story between Oschon and Llymlaen. One thing I wonder about though is that since the changes in the land suggest that Llymlaen had stuck her head out to protect Oschon, I wonder if any sort of this protection actually occurred in the tales of these two as well. To see more of the Eastern Peninsula of God's Grip in 1.0, check out the Speakers Network video linked in the top right. Another thing to mention about the God's Grip before I move on, a battle took place here during the War of the Magi in the 5th Astral Era. The War of the Magi is where the cities of March, Endipur, and Nim fought against each other in what seemed like a battle royal type of war. In the Battle of the God's Grip, the Nymphian Royal Marines defended La-No-Shuh from an Endipuri attempt to land at the Cape here. Information about the War of the Magi is very scant, and we can only guess whether it was Oschon or Llymlaen's Cape where the main battle took place. However, for a really good summary of what's currently known about the War of the Magi, check out the two videos I've linked in the top right above. One last fun fact about Oschon linked to 1.0 before I truly move on. While Llymlaen's ring was featured in lore, Oschon was famous for Oschon's finger. Upon digging, this is an item required in an original 1.0 relic quest, obtained as a reward in an escort type quest. The fact that the item still shows up on the lodestone search suggests that if you're a 1.0 player who did not complete your relic quest, you could still be carrying around fingers blessed by Oschon's priests today. And how difficult was it to achieve a perfect on an escort quest like this? Only the 1.0 relic grinders could tell us. And if you had a taste of any of these, do drop a comment down below. Finally, moving on from God's Grip towards Moraby Drydocks, it's lovely that the devs built remnants to 1.0 all over ARR maps. Remember that big battle against Bahamut over Carteneau? Well, when Merlwyb returned from Carteneau aboard the Triumph, she saw that Galadian Bay was a floating Carteneau. Just a side note, to learn more about Galadian Bay, do check out the first video I did on Middle La-No-Shuh linked above, because it's such a significant location for the Llymlaen origin story. So anyway, due to the floating carnage surrounding Llymlaen, Merlwyb ordered that an interim maelstrom command to be set up right here at Moraby Drydocks after the Battle of Carteneau. Today, the most defining feature of the Moraby Drydocks is that of the newest warship under construction. As people picked up their lives after Carteneau, Maelstrom Command shifted back to Llymlaen, and the Drydocks resumed its role as a shipyard. But did you know that this warship also has a link back to that fateful day at Carteneau? Well, it's not even finished now, and the Battle of Carteneau took place on land, not the sea, so how can it be? Well, some wounds heal and others do not. for the name of the warship is named after Merlwyb's chocobo stead that she lost in Carteneau that day, Victory. She had affectionately called her Vicky, and Vicky had ensured its owner lived to fight another day. In a last act of honor, Merlwyb inscribed Victory's name upon the oak ship in front of half the city who had turned out to attend the formal ceremony where the ship's keel was being laid, marking the start of Victory's construction. But who are the people building Victory? Well, they were a company known as Naldiq Vymelli that is today better known to house the blacksmith and armorer guilds. Naldiq was a blacksmith and Vymelli was not an armorer, but a shipwright. And they made business building some of the greatest ship the realm has ever seen. Besides the guild offices in Llymlaen, there is also what looks like an office here in the Drydocks, where work is commissioned. The land here was well positioned for a shipyard because there used to be a forest of cedar trees up north in Cedarwood, whose thick and straight trunks were perfect for shipbuilding. I have to admit I was a little oblivious till researching this video as to why a shipwright company would be linked to blacksmiths and armorers. But before modern welding techniques of steel came about, blacksmiths were actually the core craftsmen necessary for shipbuilding, and they worked very closely with shipwrights who designed the ships. The frames of the earliest metal ships were built by blacksmiths, bending iron into molds provided by shipwrights. Blacksmiths also made various hardware, rivets, fittings, and tools required for other craftsmen in shipbuilding. Both armorer and blacksmith worked with metals, but in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, armorers crafted, well, basically armors, and blacksmiths focused on weapons and tools. Knowing this history, it then made sense why Naldiq Vymelli is involved in far more than just ship writing. When the Calamity cut off Moraby Drydocks from the rest of La-No-Shuh, it was Naldiq Vymelli that constructed this bridge, now called Oschon's Embrace, to connect the lands back together. And I never knew, but I was surprised to see workers carrying out maintenance on the bridge. It was also Naldiq Vymelli that constructed the Whorleater, the floating platform containing the etheric device that drew on the powers of corrupted crystals that helped us defeat Leviathan. It comes as no surprise then that we depart from Moraby Drydocks for this fight, with the familiar ship of the Triumph towing the Whorleater into battle. Fun fact, the design of the Triumph, the flagship of the Crimson Fleet, is by the present-day Armorer Guild Master and Shipwright, Noscea. With the heavier lore portion of the video now over, there are just some fun facts I found out about the region while researching. Coming right out of Llymlaen's Tempest Gate to Lower La-No-Shuh, you would see a bridge, and this bridge apparently has rather different names in Japanese and English. In Japanese, it is known as the Maigobashi, translating to the Lost Child Bridge, or simply the Lost Bridge. The name was given as such because the bridge was supposed to appear to have lost its way when no waters would run in the creek beneath it as a result of the Calamity. However, during development, the designers thought that the dried up riverbed looked unpleasingly aesthetically, and water was re-added back. Subsequently, the lore behind the bridge's name was changed to that of preventing children from wandering too far off and getting lost. In English, it was localized as Madman Bridge instead, as Koji Fox took the narrative of the lost child a little further. If you went missing and managed to return, you would be so traumatized by what you saw on the other side that you would return going mad. Koji Fox himself said that the naming was made perhaps a little bit too early because the mobs that eventually laid on the other side were merely level 7 Dodos. Speaking of Dodos, I wonder if they're linked to how Red Rooster Stead, a prominent farm in this area, got their name. Encyclopedia Eorzea states that the name was derived from the bloody cockfights held after nightfall. Since there are no roosters around, I can only assume it was level 7 Dodos. Also, Red Rooster Stead was actually located further up north in eastern La-No-Shuh in 1.0. To see that and also learn about a dungeon linked to Llymlaen and Mistbeard that used to exist north of Moraby Bay, check out the Speakers Network link in the top right. When it comes to scenery, I would be hard-pressed to not recommend the view from Moraby Bay, since Llymlaen's ring is visible from it. On top of that, lore-wise, Moraby Bay, where Madman Bridge is a short walk from Llymsa's Tempest Gate, is known to be a popular rendezvous spot between lovers, despite the presence of many floating, stinging jellyfishes around. However, my top 3 favorite spots would rather be over here at Cedarwood, admiring the grey fleet of windmills that produces Llymsa's wheat and wool. But the windmills are hardly grey, so where does the name come from? When talking to one of the NPCs in the area, he reveals that the grey in the name derives from the mill's ability to withstand even the greyest of storms. For those looking for a quieter spot with the sound of gentle, serene waters, look no further than here, where the Mark of Nymeia lies. Now, you may think it weird that the mark of neither Llymlaen or Oschon are here, but actually, they are truly in other more appropriate places. Nymeia here, however, is the mother of Llymlaen, who spawned the first water of this world through her tears. She commands the element of water, which probably explains why she is here. Last but not least, how can I leave this place without featuring the Salt Strand, arguably the most interesting scar that the Calamity has left. When the Dalamut shard fell into the sea, the impact released a massive amount of concentrated ether beneath that instantly crystallized the water. The resultant force of the impact also sheared the solid land behind it in a similar fashion. However, I'm not aware of any quest that actually concerns us with this Dalamut fragment, and the encyclopedia would only state that city-state funded exploratory forays into the inner crater have all yet to return. Even though the game is now onto its 5th expansion into the new world, and we have supposedly wrapped up the Arcean arc, it may yet remain a possibility that we shall revisit this Dalamut shard one day. Or perhaps way back then, the Salt Strand could have been another entrance to the Coil of Bahamut, provided if that raid series needed another turn. And that's a wrap for Lower La-No-Shuh. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and if you like content like this, subscribing would help a lot. Let me know if I got anything wrong or which area you would like to see in the next one. May you ever walk in the beauty of Hydaelyn.